G'day, Ben here. Today we are going to talk about how often you should be updating content on your website. Before I do dive deep into that, I just want to let you know about a brand new guide that we've got out, which is how to get more exposure on Google for free. If you do not know this, you can get free leads from Google if you optimize, what you do within your Google My Business profile. And we've done a free guide with the 8 steps to be able to do that. So we're going to put a link in the comments for you, and that way you can go and download that guide if you want to get more exposure and some free leads on Google. Then this brand new guide will help you do just that. All right. So websites. How often should you be updating your websites? It's a great question, and it's something that a lot of people ask and wonder about because, when you think about, when we first developed websites many, many years ago, I remember when websites sort of first became a thing for businesses, all we did was we took the brochures that we had that we used to take out to sales meetings and we turned those into a website. And I don't know if you remember, if you're the same sort of vintage as me, we had this cardboard folder. It was like an A4 folder, and inside it we'd have a little business card slot in the bottom where you'd slot your business card in. And then you'd put some information in there, and you'd take it out and you'd leave that with prospects, and it would have things in there like a capability statement, like maybe like a price list, maybe some testimonials. It just had some information in there about the team. Who knows, right? But it was those pages that essentially is what a lot of people just turned into a website, and so our websites were essentially a brochure turned into something that was digital, which, at that point in time, I guess made sense because websites weren't super easy to access. We all had dial-up internet. There wasn't huge bandwidth for things like video or photos or imagery or other multimedia. And so that's where we started. These days, a website is much more than that. A website is to be able to help you convert more leads, but also attract more leads into your business. So when you think about your website, you've got to start to think about, what it is that you want to get from your marketing strategy for your plan over the next, however many couple of years, and make sure your website is reflecting that. And so your website is so much more than just a brochure. It is a marketing tool. It has a whole bunch of benefits as well from an SEO point of view if your website is functional and working well. And your website should be a place that you're proud to send people, because you know that when they go there that they're going to have a great experience. So let's talk a bit about how often you should update a website, some of the things that are good trigger points or warning signs that your website needs to be updated. And then, of course, if you are watching this live, you can ask any questions that you might have. First of all, I think that if you're not tracking some of your analytics on your website, that's a good place to start. Use Google Analytics. There are other tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush that you can subscribe to. They're a little bit expensive if you're just wanting to monitor your own website, but certainly you can get away with Google Analytics. And what that'll do, it'll give you an idea, first of all, of how many people are actually coming to your website. It's funny, when I do my digital marketing brainstorm session with people, which is your entry point if you want to start with me and have a chat, that's where you'll start from. We'll talk about that afterwards. But when I do these sessions, I quite often ask people, how many visitors do you think you get to your website every month organically? And organically means not paid traffic. This is just people doing a search on the internet and going there. This is not you sending traffic there from links on your emails or Facebook or anything like that. It is who's finding you organically by doing Google search or other search engines. And people tend to really over exaggerate what they think that number is. So they'll say to me, it's 100, it's 200, it's 1,000. And quite often, if somebody says to me it's 100 to 200, it might be 10 at best, right? So they're not getting a lot of traffic there. So by looking at your analytics, you'll actually know the real number of what traffic is going to your website. The second thing you'll know is what pages are they visiting most often. So that's probably a good place to start with updating your content. And where do they spend the most time, or where do they spend the least time? Because that'll tell you what pages need to improve. So if you've got a page, so let's say a visitor is coming to your website and that they're clicking through, and Google Analytics will show you this, where they're going to. Let's say they're clicking through to your About Us page, and let's say that they're there for a long time. Then that shows you that that page has good content and people are enjoying it. But let's say they click to that page and that's where people are leaving your website and they're leaving pretty quickly. Well, then what you need to do is you need to go, okay, that's probably some content that I could do with updating. Okay, so that's the first sign that you need to update things. Is if you look at the analytics, you're not getting enough traffic, or your traffic is leaving a page really quickly, then they're not enjoying that page. Now, that could be for a myriad of reasons. It could be because that page doesn't have very good information on it, might not be easy to read, or worse still, it's not built to show well on a mobile device or something like that, or it's not loading very fast. So there can be some technical issues, but there can definitely be some content issues. So that's the first thing that I would definitely suggest. When it comes to updating your content, I would suggest that you have something. Try and get something new going up on your website at minimum once a month. And you might be thinking, well, how am I going to do that? Well, it could be a client case study, a testimonial. It could be a blog, a frequently asked question. It could be you just updating some content, putting fresh images up there, doing different things to your website. It's always a good idea to review your website at least once a quarter and then decide what the next 90-day plan looks like for your website content. There are a lot of benefits for keeping the content fresh on your website. And so we're going to talk a bit about this, but I would say the minimum amount of time you should go for updating your content is monthly. If you can update it weekly, even better. If you can do it a couple of times a week, like with blog content, even better again. And be very careful when I say that. Be very careful about quality over quantity. Okay, so it's better if you only have the time to create one good article a month, then only put one good article a month up on your website. If you have time to create a good one every week, then do that. But if you are going to meet a deadline of doing one a week, you're going to create substandard content, then just don't bother doing that. Okay, so best to do quality over quantity. Very important when it comes to your website content. So let's talk about some of the benefits of doing this. Why would you want to continually update your content on your website? Well, first of all, it's really good for SEO. So SEO is search engine optimization, and that's just a long way of saying, being found on search engines. Really, what you're trying to do is that when somebody does a search on Google or any other search engines, I use Google for my most examples. I think that's what most people are using. I know a few people are using Bing and some of the other Yahoo and those other ones, but I think Google has like 90 something percent of the market. So if you're got people looking for your product or service on a search engine, it is the content on your website is what is going to tell Google whether or not to show your website up in that search result. Now, if you're not showing up in the search results, there's a couple of reasons for that. Some of it is technical, but some of it is to do with the content on your website. So think about how relevant is the content on your website at answering those questions and making sure that you do show up on those search results. So you can think about that's one of the reasons with updated content. It also shows Google that your website is not dead and buried, that there is some activity, the content is fresh, it's getting updated, and there's no one, I think, besides the people at these search engine companies that know exactly what the algorithms are. But I can tell you that people that update their websites regularly with fresh content, more relevant content, it might be to do with the season. For example, here in Australia, we're in winter now and it's pretty cold. So if you do something, to update your content about, the current winter or something, you'll find that you'll get a better ranking because the search engine knows that your website has got fresh and updated content relevant to what people are looking for right now. So it's really good for SEO. It's also good for your social media because it gives you the ability then to have something relevant to send out to your social media channels. So if you're blogging, for example, let's say you're creating articles or frequently asked questions or maybe content like this, you could be putting that onto your website, and then you could be then sharing that onto social media. And so it's good for you to create content for social media. Also gives you the opportunity to take snippets out of your content and share that on social media. So instead of sharing the entire piece of content that you created, you might just take little snippets. So you might do an article on the 7 things to know before you buy a house, and then you could just share one tip every day over that week on your social media channel. And what that will do will give you content for other things as well. So not only is it good to update the content on your website because it keeps it relevant, fresh, and exciting, but it's also going to make it easy for you to post on social media. I also think it's good for people that come to your website, because I know that if I go to a website and then I revisit that website, let's say I'm doing a search. And maybe I'm looking for the same product or service again a couple of months later, and I see your website, and if it's exactly the same, I'll probably just click straight off of it. But if I can see new, fresh content, or maybe something different about it, or it's going to encourage me to stick around longer. And if I know that you have new articles going up all the time, it might encourage me to come back. So it's good for you to have good, fresh content going up, giving people a reason to come back to your website and enjoy your content. And once again, that's very good for SEO, because if the search engines see that consumers or users are going back to your website and they're enjoying the content, then they're going to promote your website in search engines more readily, because they know that the content is helpful and is exciting people. It's fresh. And I think that it should be a core part of your content strategy. So some other real, I guess, warning signs. So there are probably some reasons or benefits as to why I do it. Some warning signs for you. When you do look at your data, if you've got no visitors, you definitely need to probably update your website from a technical aspect. So you might have to engage the services of a web developer to be able to help you fix up the technical issues, or like an SEO company, because you might have a lot of errors or things like that. If your website does not work well on mobile devices like mobile phones or tablets, then that is another reason to completely update your website so it can be built into something that's called responsive. If your website is difficult for you to update, and add content to, that's another warning sign that you need to do something. So, a lot of people that we talk to, they don't even know how to change something on their website, let alone update it on a weekly basis with content. So, if that is you, then you need to probably either work out how to do that, learn how to do it if you've got a platform that allows you to, something like and they call it a content management system, and a very well-known content management system is WordPress or Wix or Squarespace. All of those brands have, easier to log in and update your website sort of systems. If you cannot get onto your website and add a blog post or change some wording or an image, or update a page with new information, then you need to learn how to do that, because really it's great if you can do that. And that way you'll be able to update your website on a regular basis. If you go across to digitlc.com.au, you'll see that I make changes to that website on a regular basis, because we're always testing things. We're trying things. I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at how someone sits on a page. I'm looking at what buttons people are clicking on and making changes, because unlike those old days of what I spoke about in the beginning of the brochure, your website is multimedia, and it gives you the opportunity to build a journey, let people go on a journey on your website, to click on things and build your website so it encourages people to opt in for things, or to buy from you or make contact, right? Which is what you want to do. So there you go. So, how often should you update your website? At least once a month. A few warning signs there for you. If you found that you've got any of those issues going on for you with your website, then you definitely need to do that. Just a reminder, we've put it in the chat there. We've got that guide for you to download, the free Google guide with the 8 steps to getting more free traffic on Google. The link is in the chat box and it's up on screen right now. So if you go to digitlc.com.au/Google guide, you can download that guide for absolutely nothing, and it will help you generate more leads for free on Google, using Google, which is what you really want, isn't it? You want as many free leads as you can get. And I can tell you, it's one of the most powerful strategies right now. And I see a lot of businesses aren't utilizing it. Alrighty. Hopefully you found today's live helpful. If you did, please give it a like or a love, and make sure you share it around the internet. We do really appreciate it. If you've got any questions, leave it down below in the comments, and we'll make sure we monitor that, and we'll answer your questions as and when required. Take care. See ya.